also have Megan Eakin and Tess McCartan, who are executive directors of elementary schools, will present. We'll have Rick Ring, the assistant superintendent of business operations and capital projects, and he will be presenting. And then we'll have an individual from later present as well. So we're going to get this started. The next slide will be presented by Megan Eakin.
Good evening. Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate your time for sure. Just going over the agenda quickly for this evening, we'll begin by talking about the 6 stages of return to learning. We will go over the hybrid schedule, talk about special education students and how we're bringing them back, our early childhood students, our wellness screenings for students, as well as immunization updates. We'll talk about attendance, transportation, how kids are getting on those buses, the arrival procedures for students at different schools, and update on safety measures, and we will end with a Q&A. Next.
Like we hear from the governor and health officials and the CDC and everything on the news, it is critical that we all do our part in staying healthy. And so families and teachers and staff and students, we need to ensure that we and everyone around us are always doing our part by wearing masks, doing hand washing as often as we can, maintaining social distancing, and following the instructions of staff members. This whole procedure is new to everyone, so it's okay if you're not sure what the protocols are at your school. Just ask and someone will be happy to help you figure out the procedure for whatever it is you're asking. Next slide. Next, okay, thanks. Like Deputy Labaugh said, we've got some different presenters tonight. And like he also mentioned, we are going to be, it says I'm muted. Can you hear me, Liana or Megan? Is my voice coming through?
Yes.
I can hear you, Tess.
Okay, good. Go back, please, Liana. Thank you. Go back to page 4. One more. Liana, nope, the other way. One more. There we go. One more. We'll get there. There you go. And this is a good time to mention what we talk to staff and families a lot. Let's all allow ourselves a lot of grace during this COVID pandemic. We are building the airplane in the air, trying our best to serve our families and our students and our staff. So your understanding for glitches along the way are very appreciated. One thing we want to let you know, the question and answer function is in use tonight. We will stop occasionally to try and answer some questions, and we will also try and answer as we go, but there's only so many of us that are trying to answer. So if your question is not answered tonight, please reach out to your building principal and they will help you with whatever it is that you need to know. And the webinar is for an hour, and then it will be posted to the district's YouTube channel and linked to the website. So if you weren't able to see it tonight. Next slide.
So this is Brian Labaugh again, and I want to talk a little bit about the 6 stages of return to learning. We presented to the board a couple times in August our plans to return to school, and late in July we made a decision to start school in remote learning. If you were to talk to us back in June, we would have said, hey, let's start school in a hybrid model. So what has been our guidance, what has guided us in our decision making is the number of COVID cases per 100,000 in Pierce County over the last 14 days. And so when we go back to March, the number of cases per 100,000 were much greater than 75 at the time. And that's when the governor of the state closed schools to attendance. So we've taken this guidance from the state and from the Department of Health and from our local Pierce County Health Department and constructed this model of return where we look at the number of cases over 75 would keep us in 100% virtual remote learning. Then if we were to get into what's considered the moderate level, that would be 25 to 75 cases per 100,000. And then if we could achieve a case rate below 25, we could look at more students or getting closer to 100% in-person learning. One thing that we told the school board back in August that we had planned early on to bring special ed students in towards the end of September, and that day has come. And so what we really started in was stage 2 of our plan, which was we're going to have most students in remote learning or virtual learning, and then we would bring in some students later in small groups to provide specialized services, appointment-based services, and such for those students later in the month. So we've been working all month long to bring students in on stage 2. Tomorrow, October 1st, will be our first round of stage 2, where we bring in selected special ed students based off of their IEP and IEP team decisions. At the same time, Pierce County's number of cases per 100,000 started to decline, and Dr. Chen, who runs the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, and a number of superintendents across the region got together and started to talk about, well, we are getting close to this moderate level, and we could begin to think about bringing back students to in-person learning, and initially start with elementary students. So as we continue to monitor the data, we are in this moderate level, and we are thinking about, or we are going to then on October 5th start bringing back students to hybrid learning. You notice in these stages, there's also a stage 3. And so based on my conversation at the moment, we've gone from stage 2 to stage 4, bypassing stage 3. You can, as you know, many of our secondary schools are not going to be returning to hybrid learning anytime soon. But that doesn't keep them from bringing in a small group of students to do some special instruction with, and meet their needs if they're struggling or need college guidance or learning how to do FAFSA applications. So we may be looking at that in the near future of students coming into the secondary schools and then under what's called stage 3 of hybrid learning, which are small groups, groups of no more than 5 students at a time. Meanwhile, though, elementary students again are moving to stage 4, the hybrid learning, and starting tomorrow we'll begin with designated special ed students in small group settings, and bringing them in for short periods of time to do appointment-based services and to give them any of their specialized services that they are not getting as well in the virtual learning model. So we've kind of got all 3 stages happening at one time: stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And you can see in the moderate level of stage 3, stage 4, and stage 5, we can move in a couple different models there in terms of bringing different kids in or bringing elementary kids in more often. It would all be based on what the COVID cases are per 100,000 in the county. So it's really incumbent on everyone to do their part, right? Hand washing, social distancing, mask wearing, right? If we can keep the case rate low or lower, we can bring more students in based off of our 6 stages of return to learning. Next slide. We guided our thinking through what's called the decision tree matrix, which was developed by the State Department of Health. And that is multi-steps that you have to go through and to determine if you have all the necessary PPE for staff and students, that you have a transportation routine, what are you doing around nutrition, can you create a schedule that meets the needs of students. And so we went through that multi-step process. Again, we keep monitoring the COVID cases per 100,000. And then as we can continue to look at that, we can consider additional hybrid schedules, maybe for middle and high school or more for elementary. And then we did get approval to move forward with the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. That's what TPCHD stands for, Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, to move into stage 4 of our return to learning schedule. Next slide. So in stage 4, in our return to learning for hybrid, we are looking at bringing our K-3 students in a staggered way. We're going to be providing 2 days of instruction on site for students. Staff will be there on site 5 days a week in order to deliver in-person instruction. We're going to maintain 50% or less classroom occupancy and maintain social distancing and make sure people are wearing the appropriate PPE or masks while they're in class. So you can see our phase in return on the side of this slide. October 5th is our preschool, kinder, and first grade students. We believe the following week on October 13th. Just FYI, on October 12th, we have a district-wide professional development day, and that's why there's no school on Monday, October 12th. October 13th is a Tuesday when we bring in second and third graders. And then we're saying that we wouldn't bring fourth or fifth graders in not before November 2nd. And then if all things hold true in terms of number of cases per 100,000 county-wide, we would be looking at bringing in middle or high school students or both after November 30th. That's the Monday after Thanksgiving holiday.
We're just realizing that there was a mix-up in time, and so we started early, as some of you are joining us now can see. Please know that this is, we apologize for that. This is being recorded, so within 24 hours it will be posted to our website. So again, sorry for the confusion. We during this first part, we kind of went over the agenda for tonight. So put your questions in the chat, and we hope you will get caught up. So over the last few weeks, schools and families have been communicating, as you know, regarding your choice for hybrid or a virtual instruction option. And as we shift to hybrid, that means that students who are coming to school will, in person will participate in an A-B schedule. So students will alternate days for in-person learning. Most students will participate in 2 days of in-person learning at school and 3 days of online independent learning at home. Some families have chosen to have their students remain 100% virtual. And as you can expect, this requires us to move students and staff around. Some students will be getting a new teacher for either the hybrid or virtual model, depending on the movement we had to make in buildings. So for K1 students, because we are starting Monday, all schools will notify families of teacher assignments this Friday, October 2nd. So please be on the lookout for that. Next slide. This graphic shows the schedule for Group A and Group B on the top for the hybrid option. So in option 1, we've tried to keep our groups similar to how they are structured now. So essentially, most students who are now referred to as the AM group will be in Group A, and those in the PM group will be in Group B. And we do know that there's a few exceptions to this, but it will mostly follow the group they are in now. Our students that are 100% virtual or remote will continue with a similar schedule as the K-5 students are on now. There will be an AM group and a PM group. So if you're assigned to AM, you will be with your teacher in the morning and do independent learning activities in the afternoon. If you're assigned to the PM group, you'll do that independent in the morning and with your teacher in the afternoon, and that will go Monday through Friday. Teachers will be collaborating to determine the hybrid students that will attend on Wednesdays, and that in-person Wednesday instruction won't start until Wednesday, October 14th. Next slide.
So for students who stay in 100% remote learning, they will have a schedule most likely what they currently have. The only difference is they will probably have a different teacher. Like Ms. Eakin said, we had to rearrange with all the kids moving, some virtual, some remote. We had to do a lot of staffing changes. Students who return to school for hybrid learning may have a different teacher as well for that reason. But students who return to school for the hybrid option will have a different schedule than what they have today. The students that are in the A group will have in-person learning with the teachers that they when they come to school. So that's Monday and Thursday. The students in B group will come all day Tuesday and Friday. And like Ms. Eakin said, we'll be identifying students that will also be coming on the Wednesday. And that will be all scheduled and communicated to you with through your teacher, through your own teacher. Students, when they are doing asynchronous or independent learning, whether they're in hybrid or virtual, it will be what they're doing right now independently when they're working on Freckle or Zern or other digital resources assigned to them by their teacher or by their specialist teacher, like PE, art, music, that sort of thing. So there will be a lot of similarities to what students are doing right now going forward with just some different adjustments of some time and some teacher. Next slide.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about special education, and I've seen a couple questions about that in the Q&A. By the way, Q&A is open, so you can ask questions. We'll try to answer some by typing them, or we'll stop and answer them live. But under stage 2 and 3, so remember back when I talked about the 6 stages of return to learning, we started school under stage 2, and when we talked to the school board about reopening school, we informed them back then that we would be looking at bringing students who need specialized services into school for appointment-based services. And that's what's going to start happening tomorrow, Thursday, October 1. That's our first day of bringing in special ed students, IEP or special ed teachers and families and IEP teams have been very, very busy in the last couple of weeks, meeting in IEP team meetings and determining what appointment-based services or specialized services students need to have in person. So we did that, and students will begin that pre-K through 21 starting tomorrow. So this is for students in preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, and our transition program. At the same time, service is going to be expanded under stage 4, our hybrid model, to more frequent time and longer days at school. And so you'll learn about that as we progress in terms of moving to hybrid next week. Just a note though, if we were to, and we're monitoring those COVID-19 cases per 100,000, if we get to the point where the Dr. Chen of the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department says, hey, you can't do hybrid instruction anymore, we will move back to stage 2 as long as we are able to and continue to provide appointment-based services for our special ed students. We would stop, however, hybrid instruction where we're bringing in gen ed students in person to school, which we plan to do starting Monday. Again, if the governor were to close schools like he did back in March, on March 16th, we would move under stage 1, and under stage 1, all specialized services or appointment-based services would end in person until they could resume under stage 2. So stage 2 allows us to bring in small groups of people, and stage 4 allows us to bring in bigger groups of people, still small groups of students, but a larger group than what we do under stage 2. And we consulted with Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, other Pierce County school districts, and we talked about how we could safely bring people back under our stage 4. Next slide. So This is true for preschool as well. We have early childhood special ed that will start October 1 for in-person specialized services under stage 2. There'll be an expansion of early childhood special ed under hybrid stage 4. Just a reminder, in our early childhood special ed program, there are 2 sessions per day. There's a morning session and an afternoon session, different kids each session. Our early childhood ECAP program will start October 5th for in-person services 2 days a week under stage 4. Currently, our ECAP students are meeting remotely under stage 2. There are 2 sessions a day for ECAP. There is a morning session and an afternoon session, different kids in each session. Head Start, our Head Start program will start in-person services on October 5th as well, 2 days a week under hybrid stage 4. Head Start students are being served remotely right now under stage 2. There's only 1 session per day for Head Start. Head Start is a little longer program per day. There's only 1 session, 1 group of students that are in per day on the Head Start program. Next slide.
I'm sorry, is that me? I'm trying to answer all the chats. Is that mine? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that, families. I'm typing feverishly. So the wellness screening, I think you've heard a lot about this in the news and maybe even from your principal. Families will be filling out a health wellness check through our Skyward Family Access each day their children come to school. And Skyward Family Access is available on the district website by selecting the parent drop-down menu and selecting the Go to Family Access link. If you're already confused, don't worry about it because we're going to be showing you a video after I talk on this slide here. You will need your username and password to access this. So if you have no idea what that is, please reach out to your principal. They will be able to help you with that information. And we recommend you do this as early as you can, like tomorrow or Friday, because it kind of takes 24 hours for it to sync with the system. So please don't wait for Monday morning to do that. Students who do not have their wellness checked by their families in Skyward will be given a wellness screening and temperature check by school staff when they arrive in the morning. And for those students that are remaining in 100% virtual learning, there is no requirement to complete the Skyward or to get any health wellness check through the schools. And like I said, the next slide will be the video showing you how to do this. And again, it might be confusing, so remember it will be on the website.
It's not just students doing school in a different way. Now parents or caregivers are getting a new assignment. It's called a wellness screening. The simple 2-part questionnaire must be completed every day before your student goes back to the classroom at school. To find the wellness screening, go to the Skyward Family Access page. If you've never logged into Skyward, you'll need your login and password. If you don't have it, please call your school. To find Skyward, go to the Clover Park School District webpage. Click on the Parent tab, then click on Skyward Family Access. From here, you'll enter your login and password. Once you've logged in for the first time, you can set up a new password that's easy to remember. Just make sure you don't share it with your student. You can also download the free Skyward mobile app on your cell phone. Go to the App Store or Google Play and download the app. Follow the setup prompts, which includes choosing the Clover Park School District and setting up a 4-digit code, which acts as your password. The mobile app is a quick and easy way to get into Skyward. Now it's time to answer the wellness screening questions. From the Skyward Welcome page, look for Wellness Screening and click on it. You may need to scroll down to find it on the mobile app. You'll be asked 2 questions. Answer the questions for each student in your home and then click on the Save button at the bottom of the page. If you check Yes for either question, you'll receive a red caution sign that asks you to keep your student home. You'll get a follow-up phone call from the school later that day asking about your student. If you answer no to both questions, you'll get a green check mark. That means your student is good to go for the school day. These questions need to be answered for your student when you get up in the morning, before school. For the safety of all students, we need this done every day your student has in-class learning. Thanks for your help. Together, we can keep students and staff safe as we return to learning at school.
Remember that this is recorded, so if you need to go back to review those steps, it will be available for you to do so. Immunization compliance. So state law requires students to meet immunization compliance before they're able to attend school in person. That immunization requirement requires medically verified immunization records. So students who are missing a shot in a series can come to campus. However, if they are, they have 30 days to become compliant. So additional information is on the district website by clicking on the Return to Learning tab and selecting immunizations from the left navigation bar. If you're not sure, we encourage you to check your child's immunization records, and if in doubt, consult your healthcare provider or pediatrician. Next.
So teachers will continue to take attendance and student absences will be considered unexcused. However, students will be logged in as present in a variety of ways. If they are actually at school on the days they are supposed to be at school, if they are participating in any sort of synchronous learning, whether it's a teacher check-in or a Zoom class meeting, or even if they are doing work on Teams, that is all logged in our system, or if they are participating in any asynchronous exercises at home, and that will be done with the teacher. Parents and guardians will need to contact the school, though, to excuse an absence. What isn't changing, school messenger calls will still go out, and attendance letters will need to be sent for students who have multiple unexcused absences. A lot of our schools have reached out to maybe many of you. They're working one-on-one with families. So if you are having a barrier to either attending in person or attending virtually, please reach out to them. They are going above and beyond trying to make this work for all families. So whatever your barrier is, please reach out to your teacher or your principal. And I want to clarify one thing before going to the next screen. A great question came up that I think might benefit everyone. The Skyward health wellness check for our hybrid kid to school. So if you have a student in the A group, you only need to do that Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. Next slide.
Hey, Tess.
Yeah.
Can you restate that? You froze for a little bit, so people might
understand. Was it about the health wellness or attendance?
A little bit of both.
Okay, maybe my internet's going out. So the attendance, sorry if I'm repeating and you guys did hear me, we are counting attendance in a variety of ways, whether students are in person in the school building, whether they're logged on with their teacher at home, whether they are logged on to a Teams or a Freckle or a Zern or one of those digital resources, or even if they are completing paper and pencil work that their teacher assigned and they have communicated that to the school either through email or phone. So there's a variety of ways. What I did really want to stress with you is whatever barriers you have with your students learning, whether it's getting to school or a technology or anything else, that there's a lot of different things that our schools are working with you, please reach out to your school. We're trying to make this work for everyone because we understand people are under a lot of stress right now. So we're doing our best to help make that work. And then one thing I was trying to answer questions in the chat box. The health wellness checks that you have to do in Skyward are only on the days your students are coming in. So if your student is on hybrid and they're in A group, they only do it on Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. And you'll be getting those schedules tomorrow or Friday from your school. Next slide.
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit about transportation. Our bus routes are all available now on our website. So you can go to our webpage, scroll down to the bottom that says bus routes now available. Click on that link, and then you can find your individual school on there, and we'll give you the information about your routes. The other part that's important to know there is that we've scheduled our buses similar to if we were to go back to full school. So they have minimal impact on them. In doing the AB model, it allows us to keep social distancing, spacing students out as far as possible. So when your child shows up at the bus stop, they're gonna be greeted by a bus driver that's wearing a mask. The students are gonna be required to wear a mask as well. If they are not wearing one, the bus driver will have one there and ask the student to put it on. And then we'll take them on to school. In addition, throughout our bus, you'll see cleaning reminders about 6-foot social distancing, as well as the healthy questions that we ask and the importance of washing hands. Next slide. When we're loading our buses, they're designed to load the buses from the back to the front. This allows minimal exposure from students walking past each other as they get on and off the bus. All students will have assigned seats. Buses will all operate off the published schedule that's on our website. We're using Z-Pass. If you've been in Clover Park before, you're familiar with these. They're really a student ID, but it's also a tracking device that when they get on the bus, we know they got on the bus, and we know when they get off the bus so we don't lose any students. And then we have bus rosters that will be maintained for ridership, attestation, and tracing purposes. The bus passes should be handed out on within the first week of school. Next slide.
So arrival procedures. What will it look like when your student comes to school? So each school has come up with a specific arrival procedure that's been vetted and approved by our risk management and building principals and their supervisors. So students will either arrive by bus, they'll walk, or parent drop off. Some may ride bikes. And as we've said, students will be wearing a mask. If by chance they lost that mask on the way to school, we will provide them with a face covering or a mask. Students will be met by a staff member and escorted to an area to confirm that the completion of the wellness screening has happened. We'll initially use lists to mark students to check that, and eventually we will be moving to our Z-Pass process. Screenings will be done for students who have not completed the wellness check prior to arriving to school. So any student who does not pass the screening or feels ill later in the day will be separated from classmates and moved to another room to wait for a parent or guardian to pick them up. So the arrival procedure, I know there's probably a lot of folks feeling anxious about that first drop off next week, but it's really important that we follow these procedures and we, especially for our new kindergarten families, that we hand them off to the building staff. Feel free to think about how you want to take pictures outside on those first days, but we really need to make sure that we're following the building procedures and protocol. Next slide. School supplies. Students do not need to bring any school supplies to school with them. They can bring a backpack, but we will be providing school supplies for each individual student. These supplies will be organized in ways like a Ziploc bag or a pencil box. Teachers will do that. That's something that, if you don't know already, elementary teachers are fabulous at doing these types of things. So there will be no sharing of supplies by students. Any of those things that might be touched, we will make sure to wipe down throughout the day. But their supplies for learning will be their own. So with that, all technology will remain at home, so we can ensure that students will have them ready during their at-home learning days. So if they're coming on Monday and Thursday, they'll need that at home for Tuesday, Friday. We also have worked hard to get you connected to the internet, maybe through a hotspot. So we want to make sure that's still in place. So those devices will stay at home. Although if you're having a problem with that device, reach out to your teacher and we can figure out how to problem solve. We also recognize that at home, your students are using supplies that you might not have around. So if your student is in need of such supplies, please reach out to your child's teacher. We want to ensure that all students are set up for success, whether they're in the building or at home learning. Next slide.
Before I talk about these enhanced protocols, I just want to address the question and answer chat kind of section. We're trying our best to answer your questions. We aren't ignoring any. We're just kind of dropping in and doing the best we can. Again, like we said at the beginning, if your question is not answered tonight, please email your teacher or your principal, and they will be able to get the answer for you. So enhanced protocols that we will be doing is really limiting the amount of people that come to the schools. Very often we have a lot of volunteers, we have visitors coming in for teaching. That will not be allowed during this COVID time. The exterior doors will actually be locked once school begins. And often you do that and you buzz that little white button there to check in, but you will be asked, what are you there for? We're trying to limit how many people come in. We have to do a health wellness check on every adult that comes in. So we're really just trying to keep all of our students and our staff safe. So please be understanding if the school staff do the health wellness check with you, or really encourage you to do a phone conference or contact your teacher in another way. Staff will be wearing identification badges so that we are certain that everyone in the building has gone through those health screenings. And I'm not sure, we've done a few webinars, so Rick, maybe you said this already. Masks have to be worn by all staff and all students at all times, except when eating. And we will have students distance, 6-foot distance when they're eating, and it will be done quickly. And then we will be getting them outside for fresh air. They will be having mask breaks as needed. We do realize they're 5 and 6 years old. I think adults are having more problem with masks, we've noticed, than kids. We see them in the stores all the time. They tend to like it. But if not, we know this is a learning opportunity. Your child is not going to be in trouble or anything like that. We are going to help them learn these really safety procedures is what they are. Next slide.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about safety protocols. Clover Park has developed their safety plan around the requirements related to the guidelines from the Office of the State Superintendent for Public Instruction, as well as the Washington State and Pierce County Health Departments. Staff and students will, as stated before, will be required to do wellness screenings before entering the school. Staff will wear personal protection that aligns with their job duties and tasks. This means in some cases where we're working in closer contact due to individual education plans, staff may also have, in addition to a mask, a shield, full face shield on, or rubber gloves, or even a gown in many cases. In addition, all students will again be required to wear masks. We've also made some modifications at some of our locations, such as office spaces, to reinforce the social distance requirements. There's floor markings to remind students and staff to stay 6 foot apart. There's additional hand washing stations in some of our schools. We have hand sanitizer throughout the buildings. Every classroom has a bottle, and then there's different variety of stations throughout the schools. Next slide. Face coverings we've touched on. If a student doesn't have one, we will provide it. It is also our intent that students will receive two cloth masks from the district as well, that they so they can take those home with them. Each building will distribute them on whatever schedule they have within their planning. So it could vary throughout by the district. Next slide. Everyone, Clover Park looks at cleaning and disinfecting as everyone's responsibility. So our custodians have been directed to pay attention to high touch areas throughout the day. focusing in door handles, drinking fountains, restrooms, and touching on these all throughout the day. We also have provided disinfectant in every one of our classrooms, offices. So everyone, we expect all staff to take a role in that and making sure that disinfectant is going on when we move students around. Secondly, our night custodians will do their normal general cleaning, and then they have tools that we've purchased that they're coming in and actually will be spraying and disinfectant on all contact surfaces throughout the night. Restrooms are a high area of concern, so they'll be making quite a bit of pass-throughs there at least twice a day. They'll be disinfected. Next slide. Again, just reinforcing the high touch areas, the disinfectant that we're using. We use multiple products that we're using. We have one that in the spray bottles has a dwell time of up to 10 minutes, and then the ones that we use at night have a shorter time. I think Megan touched on this a little bit about manipulatives and supplies for students. They will have individual devices and supplies, so they will be distributed and maintained just so that your child is the only one that's using them. Let's see, next slide. This is just some of the hand washing signs are throughout the building. We also have signs on our drinking fountains. We're encouraging parents to send their child with a water bottle, so they can fill it up out of the drinking fountains. We're also providing, if they don't have water bottles, we have paper cups that they can use, just to kind of minimize any exposure to drinking fountains. And then, of course, these are disinfected throughout the day, and we will continue to monitor that and encourage kids to utilize the cups as we move through the day. So, next slide. At this time, under phase 2 in Pierce County, all of our playgrounds are closed. That doesn't mean that they can't go outside. It simply just means that they can't be on play equipment. So those have all been cordoned off in some manner, whether it's removing the swings off the swing sets or putting fence around it with signs on it. When we move to the next phase, we'll be looking at bringing that stuff back on. Activities will still allow them to walk around and get some physical activity out there as well. All right, next slide. Nutrition services, we're currently operating off the USDA guidelines, and what they've done is they've waived all their requirements around free and reduced, providing meals to all students. So all students are eligible to get a meal at this time. On days that they're in school, they will actually they'll pick up breakfast when they come into the school and go into the classroom. And then lunch will be brought into the classroom as well. And again, they'll have opportunities to go outside as part of their schedule. Students in remote learning will be able to come to the school and or one of our community distribution locations and pick up a lunch or breakfast, similar to what they've been doing under the virtual program. And again, lunch and breakfast currently will be provided to all students. This program has been approved by the federal government up to December 31st, and there is some legislation going on that will probably extend it through the life of the COVID event. Next slide.
So there have been a couple questions about this. If a student comes down with some of the symptoms of COVID during school, and what we'll be doing is contacting our health staff that are at the school sites. The student will be separated from the other students until a guardian or a parent can pick them up. And the same is true for a staff member during this school day. If they were to develop any symptoms, they would be escorted out of their classroom. Somebody else would take over the classroom. Health staff will take their temperature. The staff member, if they're showing the symptoms, will be sent home. If a student or staff member tests for positive for COVID-19, we'll be working with the health department to ensure proper procedures are followed. Because of medical concerns, we're not sharing the student's identity or the staff member's identity. The beauty of our wellness screening tool that's in Skyward is it allows us to contact trace. So students who are riding the bus will be riding the bus in assigned seats. So we'll know based off of the wellness screening, we'll know after a student or staff member tests positive for COVID-19, who they were in contact with. If they were in contact with that person or individuals for longer than 15 minutes, we will know that, and then we'll be able to notify any family members or any other students' families and let them know that they were in contact with somebody with COVID-19 or potentially had COVID-19 and what to do next. So the beauty of our wellness screening is that we can then trace contact through our student management system, whether they were on the bus, who is in their classroom, which teacher do they have, and be able to notify based off of that contact. As you know, students are eating their lunch in their classroom. We're not going to a large classroom or a large lunchroom or cafeteria, so we're trying to stay to the small group that the student is attending school with. And then after we've notified those people who have been exposed and notified them, we would have a team come in and do deep cleaning of that impacted school or classroom or bus in terms of what's happened. So just like it occurs now, we'd be doing the same thing when kids are in school, but following this procedure, the wellness check does help us do with that contact tracing back to who the student had contact with or the staff member had contact with. All right, next slide. I think what we'll do now is kind of go through the Q&A. Maybe Megan or Tess, and well, one of us will
Can I
answer
give
the
you
question.
one?
Yeah, you can give me one.
Okay, one that keeps coming up. Can students wear face shields? In addition, there's a lot of questions around when students are involved in physical activity, are masks required? So a lot of questions about students wearing masks.
So we're asking students to wear their masks during the school day, when they're in the classroom, when they get off the bus, when they get on the bus, when they get out of their car if the parents dropping them off, or when they walk to school and they get on campus to put on their mask. But we're asking them to wear their mask during the school day. The only time that we're saying that the mask comes off is, of course, while you're eating lunch or while you're eating breakfast.
So with that, with PE, there's been a lot of questions. So as we work through, this, as bringing students back, PE may look a little different because we agree that it would be difficult to run while wearing a mask. So those PE activities could look different than they normally do.
I see a question going through. I answered a couple times, but then it kept coming up. So I thought we should do it aloud, and you can take it, Brian, or I can. The question about, I'm actually going to put a couple of them together about, are we just allowing parents to do the health wellness, and how can we trust that those answers are accurate? What if they send kids to school sick? And I responded to some people that staff are trained to look for the symptoms of any illness. And that's what people were saying as well. My kid have allergies a lot. They have flu seasons coming up. So you're correct. We cannot verify that what was put on those health wellness checks are accurate or true, as you were saying in the questions, but we can only do our best. And that's why it's critical that we are doing the disinfectant, the mask, the social distancing. If your child has allergies, I have them myself, so I get it. I hate sneezing anywhere anymore. Communicate to your school or your teacher of what that is. A child will not be sent home just for sneezing. I don't know if you want to add to that, Brian or Megan.
No.
No.
There's a couple questions have been about the technology that you have at home. So if you have a tablet for a preschooler or a kindergartner, first grader, that technology would stay at home. We're not asking for students to bring the technology back and forth to school, so we can keep it at school. The same is true for the laptops that the second and third graders have. That would stay at home as well. We're expecting the student to use that on the independent learning day, so the day that they're not in person at school. There'll be assignments on their technology devices, do independent learning, whether that's Freckle or Zern, or some assignments in the Reach for Reading materials. But we're expecting kids to use that at home on the days where they're there for independent learning. School is all day on a on-site hybrid instruction day. So if your student comes Monday and Thursday, they're there all day. If on Tuesday, Friday, they are there all day. The start times and end times are dependent on which school you're at. Some of our elementary schools have an early start, and some of our elementary schools have later start. You'd have to look at your school's normal bell schedule, but it basically follows the schedule that you're currently attending. You've just been attending it on a half day. So when you start, right now, it's been aligned to the early start schools or to the late start elementary schools.
Hey, Rick, were you trying to jump in there on the mask? I thought I heard
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I want to clarify, students can wear a face shield in lieu of a mask, but we don't recommend it, nor does the health department. The mask gives you a better, more protection, but they certainly can wear a mask if that's the preference. Or a face shield, I'm sorry.
We've had a few questions about the backpacks. I mean, all we're really saying in the backpack is if your student brings a lunch to school or needs to bring an extra sweatshirt, that they have something to contain that in. If they're not going to bring anything extra to school, there's no need to bring a backpack. That's not the idea. We're trying to make sure that all the supplies the student needs are in the classroom for them when they come to school. So essentially, if they're going to get their breakfast and lunch at school, they don't need to bring a backpack. But if they need to bring something extra through the day, then they would want to bring a backpack with that.
There's a lot of questions about when will the virtual or remote option, will it be all year? When will it, what's the time frame for that?
So when we surveyed families and have been surveying second grade, third grade families as well, we have said we're going to do this through October 4th, Sunday, December 4th, which is the end of trimester 1, and then we'll see as we go what stage we're in, right? This 6th stage of learning that we talked about early on, and some of you may have missed that because we started a bit early, is not always just forward. Sometimes you may have to fall backwards, right? Based on the data that we get off of the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department website and directions from Dr. Jen. We may move back to fully remote even while we're in the hybrid model, right? The exposure level is too high or too great for us to bring kids in on site. So we could pivot at any time based on the data. So there's no guarantee that we'll stay hybrid till December 4th. That's really all about everyone doing their part, right? Face masks, hand washing, social distancing. And our intent is to continue and then re-examine as we get closer to December 4th, the end of trimester 1, and see if we can maintain or expand our services, but it's all back to the data, back to what Pierce County Health Department reports every day. It's that rolling average over the 14 days, but I saw a few questions about that. But it's the rolling average of the cases per 100,000 over a 14-day period. So it's not the actual number each day, it's the average over the course of 14 days. Yes, ECAP and Head Start and Early Childhood Special Ed are the only programs that run half-day programs. Everybody else, kinder, first, second, third, are all full-day programs.
Regarding the masks and the shields, there's some questions about that. That's not a Clover Park rule, right? We're following the Department of Health guidelines. So when they say that a shield can be worn in place of a mask, that we get that guidance from Department of Health.
I had see a question about enrolling your student for preschool, and it's not too late to do that. Just contact the Early Learning Center or contact your school, and they can get you to your local school, and they can get you to the Early Learning Center. But yes, we're still taking enrollment in preschool, and that is ongoing throughout the school year. They see something we should answer?
I'm not seeing.
So on the independent learning days, right, that's a lot of times where the students will be doing some of that work, what might be considered homework, right? So we'll have to see how that one goes, but most of the time that homework's posted to the Teams website, and so the students are going to pick it up there, or they're doing the math work in Zern, and they're doing it there, and then but I know I see this question, will teachers send homework after in-person teaching per day? And so we'll have to see how that one rolls out, but most of the time all that's going to be on the Teams classroom website.
And most of the time for the teachers who, if they have the students on Monday and students are going home Tuesday for at-home learning, teachers will get them prepped Monday for what that is on Tuesday.
Megan, do you want to talk about Wednesday again, the Wednesday schedule?
Sure. Yeah, so Wednesday, we're holding Wednesday as a third day for students who need more support in a lot of different ways. It could be students who are not reading at grade level, students who are struggling social emotional in different ways, students who have struggled to engage in the learning we've provided so far. So this week, teacher teams will be working to create lists of students who will attend on Wednesdays, and that will start on October 14th. So we will let you know by the end of next week if they are coming Wednesday. And if your student is coming on Wednesdays, that will remain until December 4th through the trimester. So.
If you don't have your login ID or password for Skyward or family access, you can contact your classroom teacher or your building secretary, and they can get you that information.
Yeah.
We're just scanning the questions real quickly. So.
Oh, and I just realized I'm not on mute and I've been typing feverishly. So I apologize for the nails clacking.
And we are doing our best, obviously, to get to your questions and kind of find some common themes that are popping up. Now, if you feel like we skipped it, that not intentional at all, but we really encourage you to reach out to your child's school with those questions, and they will answer them the best they can. We'll also be creating FAQs from sessions to put out and post on our website.
I might go back over the attendance. Let's say a question about attendance, and attendance is taken every day. So whether your student is in person, whether your student's doing independent learning, or if your student's doing remote learning. So we are taking attendance every day. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So our expectation on an independent learning day is a student logs into Teams, does some work, or logs into Clever, does some work in Zern or in Freckle, perhaps. But we're expecting students to participate every day. So if you're in the hybrid model, you're coming to school 2 days a week, and then you're participating online 3 days a week. Starting October 14th, some kids may come 3 days a week. And we're expecting then they would be in person 3 days a week and online 2 days a week. So we're looking for 5 days a week attendance in school and engagement with the work. But in the hybrid model, you're at school 2 days a week, and then 3 days you're online, and then some kids might be 3 days and 2 days. I think all the schedules for students are going to be coming out tomorrow or Friday, so you should know that from your building. The principal, they'll be sending that out. Bus schedules, I answered that one in a text, but there's a lot of these questions, and so I can address it again. If you go to the district website and you want to know the bus route, you go to the top banner and you click on parent, and you go down to bus routes. And on bus routes, you then click on which school you attend, and it should tell you what the stop is and what time the bus comes to that stop. So you see, notice Leanna just clicked on from parent to bus routes, and then you see each school is listed there. And then you can click on if you clicked on Custer, it would show you all the stops for each of the buses and what time those pickups are. It's not too late to fill out the free and reduced lunch forms. We still would like to get those. That can also be done from the district website as well by going to parent, and then you can go to student nutrition. It basically takes you into applying the free and reduced lunch meals is right there. Well, this is a good question. This is something we haven't answered. We are going to start posting to our Return to Learning website what we called last spring our learning packets, but it's going to be a little bit more generalized than that. It's going to say for this upcoming unit what a student is going to be doing. So in math, what would they be doing in Zern, what kind of activities, but we'll point families when they have the kids remotely where they should be. It will also talk about what kids are doing in reading, writing, social studies, and science. So we plan to get that up there. That was in process this week, and it'll be posted soon here. It'll give us for the month of October, you'll be able to see what your students should be doing or where they should be at in their learning. So for the number of cases per 100,000, the moderate level is somewhere between 26 and 74. The high, when you get into high rate or high exposure, it's a greater than 75. And that's 100 per 100,000 over a 14-day rolling average. We're right now in the moderate level, and we would like to stay in the moderate level so that we can continue to have kids come to school in the hybrid model. But if we start creeping up towards the 75 or exceeding the 75 per 100,000 per 14 days rolling average, then we would have to return back to fully remote instruction. You don't need to let the school know that you want your child to ride the bus. You just need to make sure that they're at the bus stop, that you're assigned at the right time so they can get on the bus. It's helpful that we know that you are a bus rider because we can then assign bus seats, and we have assigned seating on the buses. So you can either let your teacher know or let the building secretary know.
Can I interrupt, Brian?
Yep.
Just because I'm looking at a lot of these questions, and I don't think we're going to get to them all. They're like gremlins, and they just keep multiplying. A lot of questions about allergies and illnesses, and will they be, and I know I mentioned it earlier, most of the wellness checks and the signs on our door are 2 or more symptoms that cannot be attributed to other medical conditions. So communicate that to your teacher. The biggest one, again, guidance from the Department of Health, is that fever. And we require that students stay home with fever anyways, even in non-COVID days. So even though flu season is coming, if they had the flu and had a fever, they would be sent home anyway. So I hope that, sorry, I just saw something funny there. We've got people with humor in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted. So yeah, so the fever is the critical part. So if there are sniffles or allergies, we will not be sending them home. We will do a wellness check and a screen to determine that that is what it is. Thanks, Brian.
So Brian, can you think of anything else that we should add before we close out? I just want to say that we appreciate you partnering with us. We know you're doing your best, we're doing our best, and you know, we are always open to feedback, but we've talked a lot about giving each other space and grace, right, through these times. I remember what we said, that Friday you will hear from your school regarding who your child's teacher will be starting Monday for both the virtual and hybrid options, and I know that you'll be waiting anxiously for that. So as we move kids around, we'll get that information out.
I think a lot of the questions we have talked about in the presentation.
And we've also been taking notes, some of us, so we can add it to the FAQs that we will be getting out through the communication department.
So if this were a live presentation, we'd ask you to raise your hand if you're sending a kindergartner to school for the first time on Monday. We know that's a big deal. We're excited to welcome those kinder students. So we look forward to it.